Hey y'all, hey. So let's discuss the movie Straw by Tyler Perry. So I don't typically watch Tyler Perry movies because I don't enjoy them. I'm more of like a Lovecraft Country, From, Them, Us, uh, Game of Thrones, Dexter type person. So Tyler Perry for me is just a little too basic. But I watched this one because someone had said it was a 10 out of a 10. So I'm like, okay, let's see. And I definitely don't think it was a 10 out of 10, but it was thought provoking in the sense of we all struggle at times. And I think that's what made me continue to watch it because I kind of wanted to see where it was going to go. So it opened up with being at Jania's house. Her and her daughter was asleep. And the house was pretty nasty. Medicines everywhere, dishes everywhere. And in my opinion, I mean, there was no air conditioning and things like that. So you could tell that she was in an impoverished community. But I always had the thought process that no matter how poor, how rich you are, you can keep a clean house. Unless you got a mental disorder. Which in that case, that of course plays a part in everything. In depression, anxiety, I mean, even what you consider normal-minded people have days where they just don't feel like it. You know what I'm saying? So, give a take on that one. So, anyway, she wakes up, wake her daughter up, getting her ready for school, getting her dressed and everything like that. The daughter goes on to tell her that, her teacher made an announcement in front of the class that she owes $40 for lunch, which that's that's a national issue. Like, one, a kid going to school, don't embarrass that baby. Like, don't embarrass her in front of her classmates. And then the school in itself, like, y'all do free lunches in the summer. Give these kids free lunch. Breakfast and lunch, what is it? You know what I'm saying? So that right there, that's a national thing. Anyway, it happens every day to parents now. At the end of the year, they get bills for lunch, or they can't get their diplomas, or whatever the case may be, because they owe money for lunch. So as they're leaving, getting ready to go to school and to work, she's walking outdoors and she runs to her landlord. And her landlord is like, hey, girl, you owe me some money. Like, you about to get evicted. You saw the eviction notice on her table as well. So she was like, okay, I'm going to get you your money. I'm going to get you your money by 10 o'clock, or whatever, because she was getting paid today. So she drops her daughter off at school. She makes it to work. When she gets to work, the lines are super long. You can tell it's super busy. The manager's like, hey, I need you to cover register such and such because such and such called in. And he's real nasty. It was Glenn Thurman from, what's that movie called? Coolie High. And also he played on, I forgot the show, but the college show. The show with Whitley Gilbert. And he played the colonel there. But he talked to her so crazy, so nasty. I always say she's always got some shit going on, cursing and all this and that. I'm like, girl, my God. She got the what they say, the patience of Job, because we would have been head to head. I had to tell you about that shit. That shit just happened to me at work, where the woman wasn't talking crazy, but we definitely had to have a conversation. So she get on the register. One of the customers was trying to use her WIC card for things that were not eligible for WIC. And she was like, hey, you can't pay for this with WIC. The girl boyfriend threw something at her. So, all these things is happening in the morning. And you have those days, some days where things are just constantly happening. You're like, God damn, can I get a break, So, she steps off the register for a minute for some reason. One of her co-workers, friend girls, kind of say, hey, girl, hey, here goes some money. I know you need help. And the girl's like, hell, I don't, that's your money already. You need help too. And she's like, I'm like, bitch, y'all both working this. So, but everybody's situation is different. So, the friend tried to help her out. The school ended up calling her. The school called her because they were saying that they needed her to come up there to talk to them about her daughter. So, of course, that becomes a problem because she then tells her manager, like, hey, I need to go to my daughter's school, X, Y, and Z. Now, she thinking she needs to go to the daughter's school for the $40. But when she makes it up to the school, So she stops at the bank. And she had $47 in her account. She needed $40 to take to the school. But she couldn't get the $40 out of the ATM because if she would have taken it out, it would have closed her account. So they don't allow. So she goes in the bank to try to get the $40. And the lady's like, hey, you can't withdraw it from the ATM because it would close out your bank. So she's like, you have to just wait in line. She really didn't have time to wait in line because her manager only gave her 30 minutes to go to her daughter's school and come back. So anyway, she makes it to her daughter's school. When she makes it to the daughter's school, CPS is there to take her daughter away because there's bruises on her daughter's back and arms and whatever. And she was trying to explain to them that, her daughter has seizures. Her daughter fell in the bathtub because she was trying to bathe herself, which I definitely related to because my son, he used to have seizures when he was younger as well. And he actually had a seizure one time so bad that it fractured his skull. And he was in ICU. They didn't know if he was going to make it or not. So I definitely related to that. And I definitely can relate to how people can assume that because a child has bumps and bruises that you're abusing them. And it's like, no, like when you have a seizure, they can fall anywhere. Anything can happen, you know what I'm saying? So, CPS took her daughter or whatever. And of course, that made her very distraught. So now you done woke up in a nasty house. Your daughter needs $40. You're about to get evicted. You go to work, as crazy as hell is work. Your manager is crazy as hell. The school calls you. Now they didn't take your daughter. Taking your daughter. And so, as she's leaving the school, it's raining. She's trying to make it back to work. And she's rushing. So she kind of like cut out of traffic. And while she was cutting out of traffic, she almost hit a car. And so the guy that was in the car, of course, gets mad and he follows her and he rams her car. And he gets out and he's cussing and screaming at her. Come to find out he's a cop. And so he make threats towards her life. Like, if I ever see you again, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to find a legal way to kill you. So one of his co-workers, he had to write the woman a ticket and impound her car. This on top of everything else that has happened. And so she, at this point, makes it back to work. She's dripping wet. And now the manager's like, you 2 hours late, he's even talking crazier. I would have been like, motherfucker, fuck you in this goddamn job. But, but that's just my privilege speaking, you know what I'm saying? And knowing that I have the ability to go get another job fairly quickly. And with all of this happening, and you have to be mindful that this is happening to people every day. Like, seriously, it's happening to people every day. Things are piling on and piling on. So sometimes when you see a person in a bad mood or they looking like they got an attitude or upset or whatever, you don't judge because you never know what a person is going through. You know what I'm saying? You definitely don't have a right to force your emotions or, on other people. So you can't go around in life just because you mad and pissed off and treating other people bad, but also you can be understanding, especially when you don't know a situation. So now at this point, she goes back home. The woman put all of her shit out. The woman evicted her, put all her stuff out. It's raining. So she, medicines, everything. So like, that was fucked up. So she gets her things, gets some of her things, and she goes back to work because she needs to get her check. She goes back to work, and her boss would not give her the check. He was like, you know what I'm saying? No, when you get fired or whatever the case may be, we mail your check. So he was just being a fucking asshole because he simply could have gave her the check. So while they were in there discussing the check, these two guys come in to rob the place. And so they tell her, like, she has her name tag on. He was like, Janiyah, give me that bag or whatever the case may be. And, they both been there kind of frantic or whatever. So the manager is getting the safe out, getting all the money out and everything, putting the money on the counter. And dude's like, put the money in the bag. And she's like, no, because she didn't want to give her daughter's book bag away because it had her science project in it. And so she ended up tussling with the guy, with one of the robbers for the book bag. And he had a gun. So somehow she ended up getting a gun and she shot him. And of course, that made her even more frantic. And the manager, I guess, watching it, he realized that, hey, that they called your name. He now assumed that Janiyah is in on the robbery. And so he picks up the phone and calls the police and like tell them, hey, I'm being robbed. Tell the woman's name and all of this stuff. So she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know these people. And he's like just still coming at her crazy, still talking crazy. She ends up shooting the shit out of his ass too. So she ends up shooting the shit out of him too. So at this point, the money's on the table. But all she gets is her check. She leave all the money that gets her check. So she gets her check and she goes across the street to the bank to cash her check. So the bank is closing at that time, but the manager told the security guard, hey, let her in. And so they let her in. She goes up to the counter and the girl's like, well, I need to see your ID. Mind you, the girl has been in the bank several times before, but it's protocol. So she's like, you know, my ID got lost or whatever, but you know me, can you just cash the check? It was blood on the check. She's like, oh, your daughter must have been playing with the check or whatever. And that's when she kind of was like, no. And she's like, just cash your check. And she's like, well, I can't cash a check. The manager has to cash a check. And, you know, so they was kind of going back and forth. And Janiyah puts the gun on her, kind of like, bitch, give me my motherfucking money. Cash this motherfucking check. And so at this time, the teller presses the silent button on the counter. And so it alerts the police. The police calls the manager and alerts the manager. So the police called the manager and she confirmed that it is a active bank robbery. And so at this point, she's telling the other customers, hey, you know, the bank is closing, and they getting upset and mad because it's like, we done sat in this line X amount of time, and now you talking about the bank is closing. So she was like, dude, it's a fucking robbery, like the bank needs to close. And so one of the guys tried to bum rush Janiyah, and the gun ended up going off or whatever. And he ends up leaving out the bank or whatever, and a couple of other people just kind of left at the bank. At this time, you know, they didn't set up a police perimeter outside. And they set a police perimeter outside, you know what I'm saying, too, because they got hostages inside. And Janiyah sees the cop that threatened her life earlier outside. And so she was like, she didn't want to go out because she knew that this man had already promised that the next time he saw her, he was going to find a legal way to kill her. So she didn't want to go outside due to that. And she was just trying to figure out how to get things back straight. So pretty much the majority of the movie happened inside the bank. She has her daughter's science project, which looks like a bomb, but it's not a bomb. And in the backpack. And so she's just kind of trying to figure out a plan of action to get everybody safe, keep everybody safe, get out safe, stay alive. So in the meantime, this one detective was Teyana Taylor, which I really didn't like her in this role. Teyana Taylor is a gorgeous woman. She's like strikingly beautiful to me, but she does have very striking features, and I just didn't think that she fit well in this role. But anyway, that detective all day had kind of been working Janiyah's case. And she was trying to make sense of what was happening. Like, here's this woman, never been arrested, nothing ever really going on. Everybody don't have anything but raving things to say about her. And now she done shot 2 people, robbing the bank. Like, what's really going on? And so it got to the point where it was time for negotiations. And so Teyana, she led the negotiations with Janiyah. She formed a good communication with Janiyah. Shit, I can't even think of the word. But anyway, she formed a pretty solid relationship with Janiyah. And so she was listening to her, and Janiyah was telling everything that was going on. Now, mind you, while Janiyah was telling the detective, which was Tiana Taylor, everything that was going on, one of the bank tellers had set up her live inside the bank. So everybody on social media could hear the story and everything Janiyah had went through. And so many people was just like, so understanding, because honestly, who can't understand? Like, who can't understand struggles? Who can't understand going through a period of hard time? And I think this is kind of why I finished this movie, because it was just like, I've been through hard times. I know other people who've been through hard times, and all you want is just a little help, just a little way out. And if you don't have a good family support system, it can spiral. You know what I'm saying? I thank God for my support system. But so at this point now, people are in support of Janiyah and everything. Like, they done came outside. They doing like a protest, free Janiyah, and all these different things or whatever. The only thing is, like, they telling Janiyah just come out, but Janiyah's like, I cannot come out, because if I come out, that means it's going to kill me. So ultimately, the FBI ended up taking charge of the case, and they got in touch with Janiyah's mom. And Janiyah's mom called, and she's like, Janiyah, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And she was just like, well, you know, Mama, all these things are going on, X, Y, and Z with my daughter. And she's like, your daughter, Janiyah, your daughter died last night. She snapped. Psychosis. She didn't realize it. But in several times in the movie, you saw Janiyah walking through the hospital with a blanket, carrying her baby in a hospital. And in the background, you can see like nurses or whatever kind of just looking at her like, almost like in sadness. And so when I saw it the first couple times, just like, so if she's in the hospital and she's carrying her daughter, why isn't she in the bed? Why the nurses haven't gotten her? So I knew it was something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I knew it was something. But I didn't know if that was going to come towards the end of the movie. Like, the daughter was going to actually have a seizure, and she ended up having, you know, like losing her daughter, or whatever the case was, the end. But mindful, she actually lost her daughter that night before. And so the bank teller, the bank manager that was in the bank with her the whole time, was very sympathetic towards Janiyah, because she knew Janiyah had lost her daughter the day before. And so she was in support of Janiyah once she realized everything that had happened, because they had told her. So anyway, the movie itself just wasn't, you know, Taraji P. Henson, she's a great actress. And but I think the movie resonated with people, and I think it was a little bit controversial, because it's an everyday struggle, you know, and people can relate to that. And at the same time, I think Tyler Perry just have a way of kind of making things questionable. And you'd be like, come on now, Tyler, you know. Anyway, I would give the movie probably like a 5. But it was thought-provoking. I'm not going to say it wasn't thought-provoking. It was relatable. That's what it was. It was relatable. Because it didn't make you think so much as relate to the things that were going on in the movie, and how easy it can be to snap when things are constantly piling on top of you, one thing after another, and you don't have any outlet, you don't have any support. It can happen. So anyway, what did you guys think about the movie?